Okay, so I want to tell a little story about this thing that happened one time at this martial arts school I went to. All right, so it's 2014, March 2014. This was actually the same exact day. If you've heard my Ava story, Ava Miller, and the crazy shit that happened at the end with her, yeah, that this was that later that night after I dropped her off and everything. And there was this girl, her name was Betty, right? Beatrice Lazada. She was this girl from Elmont. And, like, I'm not going to get into too much detail about her because I plan on giving her own story. But one of her things was that she did martial arts. And she talked about it all the time. In fact, the first time I ever met her, I guess she'd just come from a workout, like from the dojo, and she was still wearing her like workout clothes. And she tells me about this. I'm like, oh, cool. And the way she talked, she was like really, really good. Like she was some kind of black belt or something, martial arts champion. She looked really tough, really strong. Girl you didn't want to fuck with. And, I get to know Betty. And then eventually she invites me to this dojo, right? It's in Queens, Bayside, Queens. I'm like, okay, I hope this place is good. If I'm going to drive all the way to Queens, you're going to drag my ass to Bayside to go to this place. It better be good. This better not be some Mick dojo. But I had a feeling it was. Although I never predicted it would be as bad as it turned out to be, right? Like this level of McDojo. And for those of you who don't know, a McDojo is like slang for a fake martial arts school. It's either a real martial arts school that's just not very good. It's kind of inferior to like other schools in your area. Or it's like totally fake. I'm talking they teach you techniques that don't work at all. You could train for 2 years there, and your first street fight will get the shit beat out of you by someone who's never had any training. Yeah, yeah. And I'm pretty sure this was closer to the latter. So I go all the way to Bayside, and I go in there, put on my workout clothes, whatever, and we start doing these warm ups. And usually the warm ups are like a few minutes, right? Maybe 3 to 5 minutes max. You do a little stretching, little jumping jacks. You're really supposed to warm up before class. That's why the sensei doesn't do it very long. He wants to get started, the training going. And, we're doing like these jumping jacks and like these other exercises. And it's like 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes. And we're still doing this. And I'm like, when are we going to start training? What the fuck? Are we going to like warm up the whole class? I'm like, whatever. Everyone's got a different style, different strokes for different folks. And they just deal with it. So I'm going along with it. I'm doing a good jumping jacks. And all of a sudden, this guy, right, the school's name was called Extreme Lacosta. Acosta, I guess, was the sensei's last name. And this guy was one of the goofiest motherfuckers, the biggest tools I ever met in my life. He looked basically like a twin of Sylvester Stallone. He was like a more retarded looking sounding version of Stallone. He even kind of talked like him, a similar kind of voice. Basically. And, okay guys, come on with me. I gotta do some jumping jacks. And I'm starting to get a little pissed off at this point. I'm like, I came all the way to fucking Queens from Dix Hills to do some martial arts training, and all we're doing is jumping jacks. And then all of a sudden, this guy starts jumping up and down and go, okay, guys, go repeat after me. Xtreme. Again, that's the name of his school. And he just keeps getting like louder and it sounds like more and more retarded. It's like, and then next thing I know, he's jumping up and down, doing jumping jacks. And every time he jumps up and like claps his hands together, he goes, Extreme! Extreme! And I'm standing there like, at this point, I'm not even jumping jacking anymore. I'm like done, right? No. And then finally, after another minute, I was so embarrassed to even be there that I fucking went and hid in the bathroom for like the next 10 minutes until he stopped doing jumping jacks. And then we did about 5 minutes of quote training, which just sucked too. Yeah, out of like the hour I was there, that's all we did. And holy shit, right? I obviously never went back to extreme ever again. And no thanks. And then Betty asked me how I liked it, and she was a really sweet girl, and I liked her a lot, and I was kind of trying to fuck her. So I didn't want to like insult her school. Apparently she'd been going there for 5 years. I mean, if that was an hour, I can't imagine 5 years. No. And like I said, this guy was like retarded, right? He's like one of these senseis that can't even really fight. Like he just get his ass beat by some fucking douchebag in a bar that's never done martial arts. And I actually found this guy on YouTube, one of his old fights from like the 80s or early 90s. Yeah, I guess he tried his hand at real fighting in a ring. And this guy gets like knocked the fuck out in like the first minute of the first round. Some dude just like kicks him and just knocks him out. That was it. He lost. And I think that was his only career fight. And all the people in the comment section are giving it a thumbs down and being like, what a moron, and talking all this shit. Like, oh my God. I guess it never ended with this guy. But yeah, so that was my little story about the time I met this girl named Betty. Trying to be nice, trying to get with her. I agreed to go to her martial arts school in Queens. And I go all the way to Queens just to train with this retarded guy that was like a really poor man, Sylvester Stallone. And all he did was do jumping jacks and yell out really weird shit. Like, extreme! What a guy. What a fucking guy.